Tonight. Thank you, James, for coming. Call to order. Can you do roll call, please, Darlene?
Sure. Councilmember Cervantes.
Here.
Councilmember Manley. Councilmember Molina.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Hewitt.
Here.
Mayor Davis.
We're going to go ahead and excuse Councilmember Manley and Mayor Davis for tonight. And let the record be shown that we have City Manager Coble here, City Attorney Burrow, City Clerk Gertis, Finance Director Reed, Planning Director Lucia, Public Works Director Monson, City Engineer Thornton, Fire Chief O'Connell, and Sheriff Captain Northrop. Thank you all for coming tonight. And I'm going to ask Chief O'Connell, could you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Place your right hand over your heart. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You know, I didn't see that gallery over here. Thank you all for coming. Communications from the public. Is this for right now? Okay. James, would you like to come up?
It's working now. Okay, aside from the handouts that I've given you, it covers the CEQA omissions that affected my communications and being able to be evaluated as a participant, as an interested party. But what I want to do is I'm going to take the time instead of read, because I can never get it done in time, is just talk about what is in my heart. And I want you to know that I'm a decorated Army Special Operations, Medevac, and High Altitude Rescue Boeing Vertol Helicopter Crew Chief, Chinooks. There are people that are in the communities that I'm representing that are veterans, Gold Star wives. They have families who've lost a member, you know, they're struggling, they want to know that the city's going to be there for them. Not only them, but all the people that are impacted by the Oak Valley North warehouse project. Okay, they have children, they have grandchildren. I explained to the Board of Supervisors that technically each diesel truck with a trailer inbound to the warehouse is the project, and the contents and the toxic pollution generated by the project is environmental and detrimental to the residents of Rancho Calimesa, Sharondale, to their families, their health, safety, welfare, and future quality of life. The City of Riverside EIR states that diesel particulate can remain in the air for 10 days. And if there are tractor trailers stacked up and down the 10 on the overpasses at Cherry Valley on Calimesa Boulevard, and they're shutting their engines down every 3 minutes, and when they have to start them up again, the particulate stays in the air for up to 10 days. They're doing that from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. every day. The stacking up of the project traffic will inhibit the ability for the residents of Rancho Calimesa and Sharondale, because it comes in front of the parks, to get around and do their life business. And it's unfair that they do that. Berkshire agent Lindsay Masker said that Beckwith Avenue would be an aggression point for emergency access in case there was a fire. And now they turned around and said it's only access for emergency vehicles. One other thing. I will end on this. I asked Bircher agent Scott Mulcahy if during project operations, if a liability occurred, would Bircher Development accept responsibility and be accountable? He said no, they would not. And he did this and said this in front of a clubhouse packed of our residents at Rancho Calimesa. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wright. Going to move on to approve the agenda and consent calendar. Does anybody want to make a motion or pull anything?
I'll make the motion if there's no one wants to pull anything. I move to approve the agenda and consent calendar, items 1 through 10.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
It passes 3. Okay, let's see, next. Sheriff Captain's report. Chief of, let's see, sorry. Chief Northrop, could you please give us your report?
Thank you, Council. So this report is going to cover the month of July 2024. During July, we had 601 calls for service. Most crimes stayed the same. We had one aggravated assault, 4 burglaries, 17 larceny thefts. Those all roughly are the same month to month. However, we did see a slight increase in vehicle thefts. It went from 1 last month to 5 in July. And most of those, or at least 3 of those, were trailers, so utility type trailers. We had 21 citations for various vehicle violations. And then in July, on July 11th, Calimesa Pop Deputy, along with the Crime Suppression Unit, conducted a quality of life operation. During the operation, they had 10 traffic enforcement stops made for multiple vehicle code violations, issued 8 citations. They contacted 8 unhoused subjects, and those subjects voluntarily moved. 2 of those subjects also accepted resources for housing and other services provided. They made several arrests for warrants, and 1 arrest was made for a drug-related offense. Also, 1 off-road vehicle was denied access to the Oak Valley development. That's it. Any questions for me?
I do.
Yes, ma'am.
I do, if you don't mind. The utility thefts that you reported, is that commercial utilities or
So
personal?
those are utility trailers.
Trailers.
So there was, out of the 5 vehicle thefts that were reported, 3 of those were utility trailers.
But residential, like personal, not commercial? Not the big ones, but the
Yes.
private ones?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, like a small, something you pull behind a pickup truck, not a big 40-foot semi-trailer.
Okay. Were they on the street or were they in driveways?
A little bit of both. I think
Okay.
most of them were in the street. I think 1 was in the driveway. Don't quote me on that. I looked
Okay.
briefly this morning at them.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And now we're going to have our fire chief come up and give his report.
Mayor Pro Tem, members of the council, good evening. Start off with our call data response log for the year. Currently, we're at 1,138 calls for service per year, as compared to last year, year to date, being 1,000. So easy math tonight. It's 13.8% increase overall. Pretty significant call volume, 138 calls a month difference. Medical aids year to date for a total of 780, or 68% of our activity. Miscellaneous calls, public assist, lift assist, et cetera, is 23%. So that combined total puts us about 92% medical related. Fire responses for a total of 41 year to date puts us at about 3.6% overall. Auto aid or mutual aid responses given a total of 56 for 4.9%, and then aid received year to date total calls 0.5% for 6 calls that we've asked for help. Significant incidents our units responded to assist City of Calimesa, Ukaipa yesterday with a commercial structure fire on the outer highway at the 10. A pretty significant incident. Crews were out there for about 6 hours helping. We back covered the city and remained ready to respond. And I'm sorry? I believe so, over in there. I didn't get a chance to go over and look at it, but we had one of our chief officers out there with the engine company, and like I said, they spent about, yeah, I guess it was a lot of overhaul, a lot of work for the guys yesterday. And then Friday night, we sent Calimesa Truck 1 over to Noble Creek in Beaumont for the National Night Out. It was a well-attended event. Seemed pretty positive. We were out there with the rest of the city folks. It was a good time to get out. And that's the end of my report, pending your questions.
Any questions? I have a question, and somebody asked me, I don't know if you're going to like it. When I was out talking to people, some of them were concerned about their insurance, obviously, and wanted to know if we as a city could do anything about that.
So to directly answer your question, yes, there's something, or there are things that we can do. So I'll digress to the past council meetings when I've talked about the local hazard severity zones, the fire hazard severity zones. I spoke several times and given several updates over the last several council meetings regarding state fire mapping and
Right.
the methodology and the science as it relates to topography, wind, weather, and now embercast,
Right.
and how that's affecting insurance. So, and I think I've mentioned it before, fire chiefs across the state of California are perplexed or backed into a corner because essentially there's not much we could do. Fire insurance rates historically have been driven by the insurance underwriter agency, the ISO, insurance service offices, where they give a rating of 1 through 10 for municipalities and rural areas.
Right.
City of Calimesa is currently a 3/X or a 310. That is largely dependent on fire services, apparatus, equipment, training, and a larger portion is based on water supply. So set that aside, those two metrics. Now the fire hazard severity zone mapping is problematic with the new science. The state imposed their fire mapping. You can take a look at where we are in the pathway of the mountains. And the local LRA, local responsibility area, the LRA mapping is about to come out. We are in high to very high fire hazard severity zone mapping. The other component to that is previous fire history, and again, like I said, the microterrain, the wind, the weather, and then the prediction for embercast. So to answer your question, Mayor Pro Tem, a grassroots effort needs to occur to make a fire safe or a fire wise community. It can't be driven from council.
Right.
It can't be driven from any of the municipal, from any of the staff, including the fire department. A fire safe council or fire wise community needs to be established. There's a 3-year plan, fuels reduction, et cetera, et cetera. There's a mapped outline that can be found online, and a council of sorts needs to be formed, and allegedly that could reduce in some sort of reduction or result in some sort of reduction to insurances, or so I've been informed. So I know it's pretty lengthy as well.
Yeah. Well, if somebody wanted to come forward and lead that, we could probably guide them in the right direction.
And I'm trying to embrace the folks that we contact that have those concerns, because we have some very strong personalities out there that would be the perfect type of people that we need to form those committees to enforce that. And I'm trying to encourage that type of community involvement as we go down the road.
So, I don't know, would that help the rate, though, the insurance rates? I mean, would they look at us and go, oh, look it, they're so organized, they've got this committee, and, you know, lower our rates?
I think legalistically the jury's out. I don't know that we've seen any results.
Well, I want to add something too. I think that the insurance commissioner has come out with some rules and regulations over the last couple of years The issue has been enforcement of those. That they have not really been holding the insurance companies accountable for those. And I think part of that is driven by the fact that if you do, they just bail. And we've already seen that happening.
Yeah.
And so I think that you'll start to see that in mass. And, you know, there's the backstop fire insurance through the state that's supposed to be a last resort. And the insurance industry and the way it's going and the refusal to embrace or at least implement these regulations have caused that to become almost like the only option for many, many people. And so this is not just a Calimesa issue, it's a statewide issue.
That's correct.
And, you know, the insurance commissioner is one of those statewide elected offices that's more obscure. But I think this is underscoring how important that office is. And, you know, like the chief said, there's chiefs all over the state that are trying to, you know, and there's some of these things coming out that seem good in practice, but they're not actually being put into practice, and that's the problem.
Right, right. And what it boils down to is the insurance companies are in it for themselves, and if they're not making money, they're not gonna stick around.
Well, and I'll speak to that just briefly. Oddly enough, when your insurance is canceled, and I live in a very high fire severity zone area, so your insurance gets canceled, and you go out and you take the state plan. Well, you end up back with the same insurance underwriter, the same company that you previously had that was insuring you at many times the rate that you were paying.
Right.
So it's the same insurance, but the premium is jacked up through the roof. I get it. I empathize. I understand, as do many others.
Now, somebody mentioned like a bond you could do yourself. No? You haven't heard of that? I mean, maybe it'll get to it. I don't know, but eventually everybody could put their own bond for their insurance on their house and pay into that and not have to worry about the insurance companies.
If I had more information on that, I'd share it. I'll be looking for that.
Have to look at it.
Okay.
My question is, we have our family fire about almost 5 years ago now. Are those held in the city, like accidents or like a DUI records? Are those, is there any punitive action taken because we had a local fire? Is that held against us, and does that cause our cities to be more at risk? Well, not so much at risk, but on paper, more of a risk.
So, Councilmember Molina, that is an outstanding question, and directly, I believe yes. In fire mapping, historical fire mapping is held in perpetuity. We take a look at fire patterns. Tonight on the consent calendar is our WPA, our Wildland Protection Agreement, that we pay for in conjunction with CAL FIRE in the event that we have a wildland fire in our urban interface. So although we're not penalized of sorts increasing the risk, it is part of the factor, and you'll see an increase this year in the dollar amount that the city is paying for that contract. That fire history throughout the state is combined into the total price per acre, and then the administrative service fees that CAL FIRE charges to implement that. So in the years that we have high fire activity, the previous years, the amount of that contract increases. On the green years, the wet years, when the fire activity is decreased, it takes follow-on years, and the price that we're paying per acre with the administrative fee seems to drop, or so that's explained. So I hope I answered your question with that.
Any more questions? No? Thank you.
Thank you.
With that, we're going to go ahead and move on to the public hearings. We're going to open up the public hearing, and should I read? Speakers are encouraged to be brief and remain within the established time limit of 3 minutes per speaker. Once the public hearing has been closed, no further testimony will be taken. And our public, we will go to Darlene on the special assessments for weed abatement charges.
Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. As this item we had at our last meeting, we asked for it to be continued, so we had a little bit more time to have the assessments complete. So with that, our weed abatement program for 2024 was conducted by the city's fire department. First inspections commenced on or about April 1st. 90 properties were identified as a fire hazard due to weeds and other flammable vegetation. Notice to abate letters were mailed to property owners as listed on the last equalized tax roll in compliance with requirements of the Calimesa Municipal Code. Property owners were given 30 days to abate their weeds and other flammable vegetation. Upon expiration of the 30-day period, fire department re-inspected the properties and found that 8 of those properties had not complied with the notice. The abatements were completed by the city's contractor. A notice of public hearing, which included the amount of the proposed special assessments, were mailed to those property owners. In addition, a notice of public hearing was published and posted, and a list of assessments were made available for viewing at City Hall. The property owners were given over 30 days to make their payment to the city, and with a payment due date of today at 5:30 p.m. As of the date of this report, the city has not received payment for proposed assessments due on 5 of the 8 properties. 3 of those actually were paid on Thursday, so we only have, 5 of the 8 properties, sorry. Additionally, payments not received by the property owners in the 2023-24 assessment year following the August 10th, 2023 assessment deadline were held for assessments to the tax rolls in the 24-25 tax year. The city has not received payment for invoices due on 11 properties that were noticed and abated. All of these properties have been included on the Exhibit A to the resolution. There are 14 delinquent parcels as of August 1st, 2024, with a total assessment amount of $24,149.80. Inspections by the fire department will continue throughout the year, and notice of violations will be sent to those property owners who are in violation of the Calimesa Municipal Code. Staff will continue to invoice them as necessary, and they will have their normal 30 days. If they do not pay those, then those will be held for next 25-26 tax year. And with that, I am happy to answer any questions.
Go ahead, Linda. Or, no?
Okay, I have a question. I know if residents don't abate their properties, I have a lot of land, and I have to pay, and it's very costly. But if I don't, someone will come in and do it and give me a bill. So does the same thing apply to undeveloped land? Because I live up against undeveloped land. It never seems that their weeds are cut down. Is the owner getting, of those properties, and it's all throughout the city, are they getting a bill? And I thought the city would automatically just abate it and then send them a bill. That's not happening in the undeveloped areas.
Yeah, the only time the city would automatically abate it is if they were given notice and they did not take care of that within that 30 days, then the contractor would go out, we would contact our contractor, he would go out and abate those. He would invoice the city, we would then invoice the property owner, and if they don't pay it, then that's when we put those on the assessment roll.
So do those undeveloped properties have to be visible from the street? The land that I'm talking about isn't visible from the street.
I could defer to our fire chief as they make those.
So Councilmember Molina, you bring up a couple of good points. So we all know about the 4th and the 14th Amendment. So when we do inspections, we do drive-by inspections from the street, unless it's complaint-driven. And I've had many questions regarding that. Backyards that butt up next to private residences, if you issue a complaint, you contact City Hall, contact fire. You invite us onto your property and you want to show us what your concerns are, we'll come out. We'll look at the APN. We don't fly over properties. We respect everybody's property rights under the U.S. Constitution. But if you bring us out onto your property, you show us your concerns, we'll follow up enforcement through the municipal code as it allows, and we absolutely do that. The municipal code has a couple provisions for under 5 acres, over 5 acres. We have a very comprehensive abatement process, and we'd be glad to come out and take a look, and we will respond to your or any other citizen's inquiry and go take a look.
So your answer is submit a complaint, add pictures if you can, and you'll come out and take a look at it?
Precisely. If you have something that you're concerned about, please call us. If you invite us out, show us. Either you can provide a picture, we'll do the research on the address, the location, the assessor's property number, the APN as it's referred to. We'll take a look, we'll contact the property owners, and we'll have the conversation. Photographs are absolutely helpful.
Okay. Yeah, because up like where I live, there's one way in, one way out. And if a fire starts, there's no way you can get to us in time.
Right, and if you take a look at what's on the agenda, including what's being discussed, we take it very seriously. We're in the prevention business. Engineering, controls, enforcement, and education. Enforcement is the last piece. We try to gain cooperation and educate the people to take that action, to give us a fighting chance so we don't burn homes and lose lives.
Well, you scared me. You said do it or your property is not defendable, and I said no problem.
And folks don't understand that. If we'll risk a lot to save a lot, but we triage homes and we take a look at what we can defend safely. And you know,
Thank
if
you.
you defend your home, it helps. Harden your home.
Thank you. Thank you, Darlene.
Anything, Jeff? No? Can I get a motion then?
There were no public comments.
Oh, do we have any
No.
public comments?
I did not have any.
No. Okay.
Go ahead and close the public hearing.
Anybody want to talk? Okay, we're going to go ahead and close the public hearing, and I need to get a motion, correct?
I'll move that the city council, is this the right one? Open, continue,
Recommendation.
yes, okay. Open the continued public hearing, take public testimony, and adopt resolution number 2024-44, a resolution of the city council of the city of Calimesa, California, confirming the report of charges to be placed as special assessments for weed abatement for 2024-2025.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
And we closed that already. Closed the public hearing, and we're going to move on to our business item, and that's the discussion regarding whether to amend Calimesa Municipal Code, Chapter 2.1, City Council Section 2.10.040, compensation in accordance with Senate Bill 329, and that will be our city manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem, members of the council. Councilmember Molina requests that we bring this item back for discussion at the last council meeting. Staff originally presented this item at the February 5th, 2024 City Council meeting. So as a refresher, the California Government Code sets the maximum compensation allowed for city council members for general law cities. The city's current compensation for city council members is $300 per month, which was set upon the city's incorporation. $300 was the limit in place at the time of incorporation, and that limit was set in the Government Code in 1984 prior to Calimesa's incorporation. The law did not contain any provisions for increasing compensation due to inflation. In July of 2023, Governor Newsom signed Senate Bill 329 into law, increasing the maximum compensation for city council members and allowing for future increases. The new limit for cities with a population of 35,000 or less is $950 per month. And this new limit is consistent with the inflationary increase of $300 in 1984 to the time that the bill was signed into law. Following the discussion with the City Council had on this item on February 5th, staff calculated the accumulated inflation since December 1990, which comes to $704.43. So $300 in December 1990 has the same value as $704.43 today. Future automatic increases are not allowed. So increases would need to be approved by the City Council in the future. Those future increases will be limited to either the greater of either 5% for each calendar year since the last increase. So if we were to do an increase in 2 years, it would be 10%, or an amount equal to inflation based upon California CPI since January 1st, 2024, not to exceed 10% each calendar year. Staff would not recommend annual increases since elections would only take place every 2 years, and no increase can take effect until the election of at least one member of the council takes place. Also, in answer to some questions and comments from the last discussion, Council members can donate some or all of their compensation, and staff can make arrangements to do that automatically. The California Government Code also allows council members to decline their compensation. Staff is not recommending a specific dollar amount, but a good compromise between the current amount and the maximum allowed. Should the council want to consider an increase, maybe an inflationary adjustment since the city's incorporation. That concludes my report. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions?
I just wanted to kind of lead the discussion. I asked this item be brought up again because we all put in a lot of time to prepare for council meetings, to work with other cities. We don't just live in our city. We have to take into account what's going on in other cities that impact our city. And we are required to attend to county business as well. That's part of our job. And so the council doesn't have a built-in compensation process like staff does, where, cost of living and so on. And so I think it's appropriate for two reasons to consider the inflationary amount of $743. $704.43. I think that's reasonable. I think it's, we put in the time. I think it's appropriate. And I also think this, almost just as importantly as that is, because that seems like a selfish thing to talk about, but I think it also allows people in the community. We have a lot of new families here. And I think by offering a higher stipend benefit, I think it'll draw people from the community who maybe work or part-time, and maybe this would help them get, they'd want to get involved in city government, but $300 is not worth their time. And so I think this will hopefully reach people and make it interesting to them to maybe inquire about it and apply to volunteer in the city. So I think it's a twofold item here. So my request is to bring, because it's a timely matter, we have the elections coming in November, we have to put a resolution in place, and so this has to take place pretty much now in order for it to take effect before the election, because if we don't, we'll have to wait till the next election to bring the matter up again. And so all cities around us are doing it. There's not a lot of pushback on it. I know it's money that the city has to spend, but I think it's worth it. And I think we put the time in, and I think it's appropriate. Those are my comments.
Thank you, Linda. Jeff, do you have anything?
Well, I think Linda summed it up. I think I made similar points last time, but yeah, thank you for your report too, Will. I wasn't aware that amount was set in 1984 by the governor, and then the city, when it incorporated, it set that at $300. So it's been nearly 35, 40 years, depending when you date it. So an inflation adjustment seems reasonable, and so yeah, I would support the next step, whatever that would be.
I think since we do have a couple of members missing, what can we do, Will?
So my recommendation would be, since this is a time-sensitive matter, as Councilmember Molina pointed out, this is just a direction to staff at this point. If we want to bring forward something, my recommendation is we would bring it to the September 16th meeting. Our August 19th meeting is very jam-packed as it is, so that's going to be a long meeting as it is, so adding another item might be difficult. But so we would put it on the September 16th agenda for a first reading, because this has to be passed by ordinance. It's not just a resolution. So there's a first reading, a second reading. So the second reading would come back the next meeting in the effective 30 days. Quinn, as long as the adoption happens prior to the election, even if the ordinance is not in full effect, are we still okay to get it in November 2024?
I think so. I was just looking at the calendar, though. If you do have September 16th and then October 1st, I'm looking at the first meeting in October will be the 7th. And the election is, so then if it's 30 days, it will be in effect as of the day of the election.
Okay. So that was the important thing. So that would be the timeline. So that will give staff ample time to craft an ordinance for council consideration, and then, of course, the two absent members will be able to weigh in at that point.
Okay, so we don't have to do anything tonight. We can just schedule that. This will be pushed to our September 16th meeting.
Yes, we will. The staff will bring together an ordinance. We will work together with the
Yes.
city attorney's office.
Thank you.
Thank you, Will.
Thank you.
Okay, that brings us to the end of our business items. Mayor and council member reporting of county and regional meetings. How about we start with Jeff on
Yeah,
this? Are you
so-
ready? Are you
Yeah,
ready?
well, RCA was canceled this month, so I don't have a report on that. I just want to say thanks to all those who were a part of the groundbreaking ceremony for the library. That was a lot of fun, was well attended. It was, this is something we've been waiting a long time for a new library. So this is really exciting, and from what I hear, it's going to be in use within a year, by next summer. So that's going to be real exciting for the community, and I'm thrilled. Looking at the pictures that were at the groundbreaking was really, really exciting. The images were even better than I was anticipating. So just thanks to everyone who's a part of that, not just the groundbreaking, but all the process, the many, many months and years. This has been in the making for, well, there was some mixed data on that, but a long time. And the mayor gave a great speech, and it was a fantastic event. So thanks to everyone who's a part of it. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Linda?
Yes, I have, most of my entities were dark in July. RCTC, RTA, and SCAG went dark in July. And so most of my events were social. One was Popsicles in the Park, July 18th at Summerwind Park. That was a lot of fun for the kids. It was very, very hot, and it was well worth the water. The summer lunch program ended on the 19th of July, and we had a very successful summer for kids for the lunch program. And I asked if it's possible to get lunch during the other breaks, Thanksgiving break and spring break, but I don't think that's
Not possible.
It's not possible, but I asked about it anyway. And then this last Saturday, we were invited to a ribbon cutting at All Valley Urgent Care in the Cherry Valley Marketplace. What do you call that? What's that called?
It's the Calimesa Marketplace.
Calimesa Marketplace. Very nice event. It was a little bit odd because the Beaumont Chamber was there welcoming everyone and conducting the ribbon cutting, but they did announce that they were doing it on behalf of the Calimesa Chamber and Beaumont. But we did a ribbon cutting. Mayor Pro Tem Wendy was there, and so was I. We went on a tour of the property. The best thing about this organization is that they accept all insurances, including Optum, which is a really poor program right now for people trying to get into appointments, taking 6 to 8 months for appointments. This urgent care accepts Kaiser. So if you're a Kaiser member and you have to go to Fontana, guess what? Cherry Valley is the place to go. So it was a very impressive business. It's a husband and wife organization. The doctor is a PA, so he's a physician assistant. But they have x-ray capability there, ultrasound, and there's a lot of business there. I went today. I forgot their certificate on Saturday, and so I took it today to them. But they're very grateful for the community output to them. They're really working hard, and I think it's going to save a lot of people driving time for urgent care. It's wonderful. I can't talk about it enough. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. So I attended a WRCOG meeting today, and it was a long meeting. We went from 2 o'clock to like 4 o'clock, so it was pretty long. And then they had a closed session. But on their consent calendar, they approved the fiscal year 23-24 budget amendment that they had. Let's see, what else did they do? God, it took so long, but I kind of a blur on what everything happened. They went over some of the IRAN monthly activities, the PACE program activities update, and the big discussion was the increase of a maximum bond authorization for their green works, and that was pretty, we had a lot of discussion on that, so we didn't really approve it. We passed it to the next month. We'll see it come back next month. And with that, let's see. And then, like I said, we had a closed session, and that was it. But I did want to comment on the library. You know, I know people said you didn't want to put money into it, but the library was fairly small. And I felt like it needed to be updated. We've been working on this a long time, and I think, and I believe, that if we have this nice library, that will anchor people to the downtown, our old area. Even when we grow and have a new area, I think, you know, people will come to our library, and it'll be real nice. And I'm excited for it. And the one in the bank, everybody comments on that and says it's so much bigger. I said, well, yeah, you're going to like the new one too. So I'm excited for that. And the ribbon cutting was fairly nice. And we have a lot coming up. Thank goodness it's going to be fall pretty soon. I'm hot. So next off, our city manager comments and reports.
Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. Just a couple of announcements. First, I want to thank staff, Darlene Yeza, Robert Hagan, our maintenance worker, and Chief O'Connell, the Sheriff's Department. We had a lot of hands on deck to participate. It's our first time participating in National Night Out. They do a pass area. National Night Out is actually a nationwide thing. Some cities, some cities do their own event, and others do it as a region. And so the pass area gets together, so Banning Police Department, Beaumont Police Department, Sheriff's Department, all the fire departments were there. So again, thanks for our staff for manning our booth. They did an awesome job. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend. I had planned on going, and then family stuff comes up, so that's the way it goes sometimes. And I also want to announce that this coming Friday at Summerwind Park, Friday, August 9th, 7 p.m., we will be hosting a movie Under the Stars in partnership with the Beaumont Cherry Valley Recreation and Park District. They'll actually be doing most of the heavy lifting with that. And the movie Under the Stars is sponsored by Riverside County Supervisor Ixchel Gutierrez. He's funding the event. The movie they'll be showing is Cars, so we're looking forward to that. So hopefully we can talk to the mayor and have him bring in one of his classic cars to show off during the event. I think that'd be pretty cool. But we hope that the community can come out for that. So again, that's Friday, August 9th at 7 p.m. at Summerwind Park. That concludes my report.
And with that, we're going to close the meeting. Our next meeting will be August 19th. So we're going to close the meeting at 6:43. Thank you all.